Hey, good morning, everybody. I hope you're having a good day. Today, we're going to be getting into Matthew chapter 17. A lot of new information in the story of Jesus here. Going to be just talking about the Mount of Transfiguration, taxes, fish's mouth, all that good stuff. So here we go. Matthew chapter 17. And on the sixth day, and after 6 days, Jesus taketh Peter, James, and John, his brother, and bringeth them to a high mountain apart and was transfigured before them. Transfigured is another word for changed. And his face did shine like the sun, his raiment was white as light, and behold, there appeared unto them Moses and Elias talking with him. And answered Peter and said to Jesus, Lord, it is good for us to be here. If you will, let us make here 3 tabernacles, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elias. While he yet spake, behold, a bright cloud overshadowed them, and behold, a voice out of the cloud which said, This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased, hear him. And when the disciples heard it, they fell on their face and were sore afraid. And Jesus came and touched them and said, Arise, be not afraid. And when they had lifted up their eyes, they saw no man save Jesus only. So a week after making the prediction, some standing here will not taste death till they see the Son of Man coming into his kingdom, Jesus brought Peter, James, and John to a high mountain. He withdrew to pray. And while he's praying, there were some changes. The appearance of his face changed. The appearance of his clothes changed as bright light. The gospel writers seek to convey the blinding brightness of his glory that belongs to Jesus Christ alone. John 1:14 says, We beheld his glory. The glory is of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. He appeared with Moses and Elijah. Scripture doesn't tell us why these 2 Old Testament patriarchs were given this assignment, but Peter recommended 3 tabernacles. Now, Peter is not recommending to build 3 physical tabernacles, but rather an observance of the Feast of Tabernacles, the Feast of Tabernacles, which is the last in the cycle of Israel's annual feast, a memorial of the Egyptian deliverance. It seemed fitting to him that they should have a Feast of Tabernacle because the 3 had witnessed the millennial glory of Christ. This statement, there be some standing here which shall not taste death until they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom, in the previous chapter is here fulfilled. The idea of the tabernacle is rebuked by Jesus. Then a voice from heaven says, Thou art my beloved Son, whom I am well pleased, hear him. This is the second time. This is the second time this happened, once at baptism, once at transfiguration. It authenticated both the person, the word of Christ, and they were terrified. Jesus knew their fears. He gently touched them. This simple touch of the Savior dispelled and quieted all of their fears. This was a premature and a miniature picture of the second coming. It was a revelation of the essential glory that belongs to Christ, and he intends to share this glorified change with us. The word transformed also means changed. Consider these scriptures, 1 Corinthians 15, 51, and 52. Behold, I will show you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump. For the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed. If you're curious about this trumpet and the last trump, go see the devotion in the book of Revelation. There should be a playlist with all of those. Then in Colossians 3 and 4, when Christ, who is in our life, shall appear, then shall we appear with him in glory. 1 John 3 and 2, Beloved, we are now the sons of God, and it doth not yet appear what we shall be, but we shall know that when he shall appear, we shall be like him, for we shall see him as he is. We shall be like him. Isn't that wonderful? And whenever they lifted up, they saw, save Jesus only. When everything else goes away, Jesus is still there, and I'm so thankful for that. And continuing on, and as they came down the mountain, Jesus charged them, saying, Tell the vision to no man until the Son of Man be risen from the dead. The disciples asked him, Why then say the scribes that Elias must come first? Jesus answered and said, Elias truly shall come first and restore all things. But I say to you that Elias is already come. They knew him not, and have done unto him whatever they wist. Likewise shall also the Son of Man suffer of them. The disciples knew that he spoke of John the Baptist. So after coming down the mountain, their glorious experience, Jesus gave them orders not to tell anyone. The reason why: the ministry entrusted to the men would be centered around the person and work of Jesus Christ, not their own experiences. It would have been natural for these men to tell the glory that they have seen, thus attracting others to themselves, but their ministry was to point others to Jesus, not to highlight their own experiences. And number two, the nation had already rejected him, so he was withholding further signs from that generation. Then they shifted focus to Elijah. Why did the scribes say that Elijah would come first? Jesus responded, hey, he already has. He was rejected, and they knew that he was talking about John the Baptist. And in verse 14, and when they were come down the multitude, there came a multitude, and they said unto him a certain man, kneeling down to him, saying, Lord, have mercy on my son, for he's a lunatic, sore vexed, oftentimes falleth in the fire, and often in the water. I brought him to your disciples, they couldn't cure him. And Jesus said, O faithless and perverse generation, how long will I be with you? How long shall I suffer you? Bring him to me. Jesus rebuked the devil, departed out from him. The devil departed out from him, and the child was cured from that hour. Then came the disciples to Jesus apart, alone, and said, why couldn't we cast him out? Jesus said, because of your unbelief. Verily I say to you, if you have faith as the grain of mustard seed, you shall say to the mountain, remove from hence to yonder place, it will remove, and nothing will be impossible for you. Howbeit, this kind goeth not out, but by prayer and fasting. They were found, whenever they returned, they found the other disciples in a confrontation with the teachers of the law. Mark 9 kind of adds a little more context to this. One of them had a demon-possessed son. He came looking for Jesus. He couldn't find him. So he went to the disciples for healing. Jesus gave them the authority to heal in Mark 10, but they couldn't do it. Jesus shows up. The father asks Jesus for help. Jesus responds to the crowd, oh, faithless generation, I've been with you so long, and how long shall I suffer you? How long should I put up with being with you and you still not understand? Meaning, you've seen me do this before, yet you still doubt. Mark records the conversation between the Father and Jesus. The Father said, if you can, take pity on us and help us. Jesus repeated the phrase, if you can, only believe. The Father then responded, Lord, I believe, but help my unbelief. This man had constantly struggled between Jesus and the Pharisees, and now a moment of need brings him to Jesus, and he says, Jesus, I believe, but help my unbelief. And then Jesus heals the boy. I'll help you. The disciples came to Jesus, asked why they couldn't do this. Yeah, why they couldn't cast out this demon. Jesus told them of mustard seed faith. It would be their faith, not their position, that they must carry. They were attempting to operate in their position. They were attempting to operate in what the authority of the position. But Jesus is like, no, no, no. You operate in the faith of me. And then he goes a step further and says, this kind doesn't come out by prayer and fasting. There are some things that you cannot overcome in your life except by prayer and fasting. You cannot live in today's world on yesterday's blessing. You need prayer and fasting every day. You need pray every day and fast once a week. Fast a couple times a month. You have to pray and fast. And then he gives some additional information on his coming death. And while they abode in Galilee, Jesus said to them, the Son of Man will be betrayed in the hands of sinners. They will kill him. On the third day he will rise again. And they were exceedingly sorry. Jesus left the region, and then he gives more information about his death. He had already given some information. Now he's adding on. And this is what he told them. I'm going to be betrayed. I'm going to be killed. I'll rise on the third day. And then the results of this information, they were confused and afraid to ask further questions. Mark 9 tells us that. And they were exceedingly sorry. Then whenever they came to Capernaum, verse 24, they received that received tribute, tax collectors, came to Peter and said, does your master not pay tribute? And he said, Yes, and whenever he was coming to the house, Jesus prevented him, saying, "What thinkest thou, Simon? Of whom do the kings of the earth take custom or tribute? Of their own children or of strangers?" And Peter said, "Of strangers." Jesus said to him, "Then are the children free? Notwithstanding, lest we should offend them, go out to the sea, cast a hook, take up the fish that first cometh up, and when thou hast opened up his mouth, thou shalt find a piece of money. Take that and give unto them for me and thee." So Peter received a visit from the collectors of the temple tax. They asked Peter, "Hey, does Jesus pay temple tax?" Peter said, "Yes." Now, this tax was first imposed by Moses and was used to defray the cost of the temple. It was required annually for any Israelite 20 years and older because Jesus obeyed, but at this point, it almost became as if it was optional. Jesus obeyed the commandments of the law. Peter had no need to ask Jesus. Later, Jesus would ask Peter what he was thinking. He then asked how the kings collect taxes. He responded, "From strangers, not from their own," meaning other nations. Example, Rome collected taxes from Israel, not from its own citizens. Rome's citizens were free. Jesus was showing how at the time sons or citizens were exempt from taxation and how the temple was his father's house. He was the son of God, so he should technically be exempt, but they did not accept that. He knew that would not accept that. Notwithstanding, if he refused to pay the temple tax, the authorities would have the grounds to accuse him. To prevent that, he told Peter to go fishing. The first fish you catch, the coins in the mouth, use it to pay the taxes. Let's not cause any more strife around this, and I don't want to give them cause to accuse me of anything. And so that was Matthew chapter 17. I want to go back and kind of highlight the Mount of Transfiguration. We are going to get to share his glory. And Moses was there, Elijah was there. It was a picture of the second coming, but the thing that they remembered was save Jesus only. They didn't remember the conversation. The conversation's not recorded because that's not what's important. What's important is the incredible presence of Jesus and how we will be like him one day, which is so awesome. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow for the next chapter of the book of Matthew. Bye-bye.